What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Week 2, Dave and a Dan. Hopefully, week 2, a little bit better than week 1, maybe in terms of some of the... Picked a bad week to go with nothing but overs, as you mentioned last week, because around the NFL, I don't know if you checked your fantasy scoreboards, as I mentioned in my Thursday night video, but if you click the word over on a multitude of players week 1, you probably weren't doing so well, but we are here for week 2. I know one of my main week 2 narratives always, typically, I think I mentioned this to you last year, but whether it was DFS or whether it was these, standard NFL picks, player props, week 1 duds many times equal week 2 studs. Guys you expected to do really well in week 1 and who didn't for whatever reason usually will have a very appetizing line the following week. But week 1 showed a lot of surprises to many people, but not so much around here because we brought out the donkey charts and we showed you what may have happened. Even though, they got you, Dave. They got you with the Broncos. You said if you had to be a dad.
I bet it at 7.5.
And that's why I made the video yesterday as early as possible, telling people, because you know who came out yesterday. I'm sure you saw, or on Sunday after the 4 o'clock games. You know the crowd. It's the It's Rigged crowd who claims that they rigged it for the Tennessee Titans, despite the fact that Dave actually won on the Broncos, fair and square. So there is a portion of the Broncos bettors who won, and there's all the Tennessee Titans bettors who won. So explain to me why the rigged and the miscellaneous cadre of people who are rigging NFL games would do that. Why would they want less money than possible? But that's why this show is called A Dave and a Dan, by the way, because a Dan fell for the plus 8.5. He showed up at 12:59 and he put in his minus 8.5 Broncos pick in. Dave gets it in very early, ends up winning that by the skin of his teeth. So how'd you feel about week 1? A lot of rats, as I texted you the other day.
And, in fairness, I wasn't at 8.5. I still didn't like the Titans. You got the Broncos at 7.5 anyway. 8.5, not a key number. So sometimes it just works that way. I had mentioned to you too, like the Baltimore game, that was plus 1.5. When I had talked about it on, I think the Wednesday video I do over on the Odd Shopper channel, the Baltimore Ravens were plus 1.5, right? So you're going to have a bunch of the rigged game that grabbed the Ravens at minus 1.5, and they didn't cover. But at plus 1.5, which they were all the way up until like Wednesday night or Thursday morning, they still would have covered, right? So anybody at the end that was on Ravens plus 1.5, that they sat back and went like this. Oh, well, that's okay. They make the field goal, I cover. They don't make the
My
field
question
goal,
is, are they actually happier than just winning, knowing that everyone else who bet the Ravens lost? Like, is there an extra miserable feeling where it's not enough for them to win, to know everyone else who clicked the same team name as them lost as well? What do you think?
I think they probably enjoy that very much.
I know they enjoy it. They watch The Price is Right and they hope the person spins and gets 105. They just miss out by 5 measly cents. That's who they are, and they were thrilled to know that the Ravens covered for them, but not for everybody else.
You know what spot hurt me though? I thought I had a great read on that Chicago game. I had Bears money line plus 105, closed it, I think went off at like minus 108, minus 110. I'm looking at it. I'm going, all right, pick 6. I had bet McCarthy to throw an interception. Okay, there we go. I had a 3-leg.
Did you have the remote up? Did you have the remote up ready to turn on a movie that you've been holding off because you already chalked it up as the win?
Caleb Williams. It's because it's Caleb Williams. And you know what? Kevin O'Connell is a great coach. He really is. And you got the pick 6. You're like, all right, Caleb Williams looks okay. I had a 3-leg super boost parlay with Cole Kmet, 10 plus, 10 and over 10.5 yards, JJ McCarthy to throw a pick, and then Chicago money line. And I'm like, all right, we look okay. We look all right. And then, my God, did it fall apart at the seams. I had DeAndre Swift, 15 plus receiving. Andy, he had 3 for 12 on the first 2 drives. I'm like, all right,
I remember.
I'm already counting that one as a win, and then none of them win. And I just went to bed like, dude, how did that happen? So it was a good week. Thursday night was awesome. Friday night was awesome. Sunday, good enough. You'll take you. And then Monday hurt. But we got another week on our hands. And I want your thoughts on something. We said going into week one, like it'll educate you and you'll learn a lot. That's true, but also
to a certain extent.
Right. In the same breath.
You didn't mean week one. You meant the first quadrant of the season. Like,
right.
It takes a few weeks. Yeah.
Well, oftentimes what I mean by week one is like usage rates and, snap counts and
true.
And that can actually tell you a decent, like I think the Jets backfield situation was pretty enlightening, right? After all.
Oh, you mean Kenneth Gainwell leading the Pittsburgh backfield in snaps? Got through that screenshot that I had on here, the over 18.5 or 19.5 for Jaylen Warren. Got through because he had one long reception, only ended up having 2 receptions. This is Jaylen Warren, who used to have 4 to 5, the pass catching specialist, who now became Najee Harris, running him up the middle for 2 yards and letting Kenneth Gainwell run the 2-minute drill, getting all sorts of receptions. Yeah, and they're right, by the way, as you can tell, my camera cut out because it's the sports betting guys. They don't want me to give you this great information on Kenneth Gainwell just raking up all these touches in the backfield. Got lucky, but to your point, and I'll get my other camera back, is this isn't that bad actually. The generic computer camera comes through when you need it, but the Kenneth Gainwell usage, that's one that now I cannot trust. So these things, yes, make themselves evident. So sorry to cut you off. I guess that was my price. I had to lose my camera to make that point. But
please cut me off. It's your show.
No, our show.
But I'm saying there's the overreactions. The way we overreact to things in week one can really hurt you in week 2. So you have to sort through the noise. Like a team might have looked terrible on offense. What if the opposing team is actually just really good defensively and you're looking at it from one side? What if it was just a bad game and they had to get the kinks out? What if they have new offensive and defensive coordinators and it's going to take a couple weeks for them to work back into the swing of things? Detroit Lions possibly in that bad loss against Green Bay, lost Aaron Glenn, lost Ben Johnson. So what I'm saying is you want to look at things from more than just one angle. If you get tunnel vision and just assume like he's the guy now, or this guy's terrible, or this team's terrible, and this and that because of one lone performance, that is how you go in, overreact, and then take the bait and bite on something the next week, where if you had really had the full picture and taken the time to kind of diagnose it, you might look at it a little differently. And by the way, we are all guilty of that, myself included. But it is something you got to be careful about going into week 2.
So many of those games that we discussed from the donkey charts, the potential rat games, it was just rat after rat after rat. Obviously, for most of the crowd, not yourself because you hopped on that line early, but Tennessee was the big one that screwed everyone as they took the Broncos. But there were other ones on there like the Cincinnati Bengals. Despite those preseason starting 2 of the 3 games, putting their starters out there, they got that one through the skin of their teeth. Classic week 1 Bengals. So they didn't cover that 5.5 point spread. The Pittsburgh Steelers ended up winning barely, but they were one of the most heavily bet teams. I think they were minus 3.5 or minus 4.5 or something like that. So many of the public bets, the ones where you look at them, everyone at the bar tells you they didn't come through. And literally one of my whole goals in life is just to tell you, if something looks that simple in the NHL, I'll look at you a little to the side, say, but it might be a mail-in. As long as you think it's not a mail-in, yeah, sure, the Panthers should beat the Sharks. As long as they don't mail it in the NFL, I don't get it. You know that the most number of people are betting on this. You like to wear tinfoil hats and say everything's rigged. So if you know the most people are betting that, and then you also simultaneously say everything's rigged, Why would you not at least stay away from that game?
That's a good point. That's great.
So
And what you're getting at too is, I think it's really easy to fall
sometimes
into,
I don't even know what I'm getting at, by the way.
look, join the party, brother. What I'm saying though is, like, if you look at a team, let's just take any bad team, right? New Orleans Saints, who, in all fairness, they should have, like, if Arizona looked terrible last week, there was a very good chance. I shouldn't say terrible, but that game was competitive. There was a chance that Rattler could have scored, and then with a 2-point conversion, they tie that game up late. But what happens is that football betting, and I mentioned this in my video yesterday, and I was trying to hammer it home because you want people to, like, betting sides in the NFL is tough, right? Like, if you have slightly above 50%, you're happy at the end of the year, but there is a right and wrong way to go about it. And the one thing with football is different than other sports is it's so situational. And if you're looking at a team and just going, man, this team's way better, they have a much better roster and this and that, there's no way they lose this game, right? Or there's no way they can't cover this game. There's always a way. There's always a way. And it's like the word, oh, there's no way this terrible team covers the spread. Dude, the spread is made to make an uneven matchup, an unbalanced matchup balanced, right? So when you think of it like that, and you're talking essentially 50-50 on either side, of course there's a way they can cover. And every week is different. At the end of the year, yeah, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be a much better team on the standings than the New Orleans Saints. But based on what happened the week before, what happened this week, where it's like, that's all that really matters. It's every week it's different.
Here's a very simple notion that should be easy to apply. This should be easy to remember. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have photographic memory, which is a scam. There's no, when people just go, I have photographic memory. No, you don't. No, you don't. Yeah, I cannot show you something and then you can tell me where Waldo is, because nobody has to really call them out. Next time somebody pulls that photographic memory, I'm actually just going to keep in the little slot on my phone where I can tuck things. I'm just going to keep a random picture and say, okay, I'm going to show you this picture. And then I just want you to be right in 3 out of 5 things. Okay, take 30 seconds. Yes, I'm going to go this whole route, because the whole photographic memory thing is an absolute scam, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I guess we will find out. Anyway,
no, you're right. And how can you really prove it? Yeah,
it's an unfalsifiable claim. All right, well, I have photographic memory, so I don't have to do that. Okay, no problem.
Right.
Or that's a great excuse. You know how you have to show work in math, or else you don't get the full credit. You just say, no, well, I did it in my head. It's the same exact thing. I cheated off this person. You go, no, but I did it in my head. That's where the work. I can't show you the work.
Hold on, Andy. I want to. Where were you going with this? Hold on. Where were you going with the games?
So you don't have to be smart. Thank you. I need this in my life.
No,
you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be smart just to remember this simple notion. Any bet that you click the sport on a sports book, you click NFL. If something's on the very first page, you don't have an edge on anybody. Those are all the bets they're praying you click. There's a reason now when you go into the player props, you go into Draftkings, it is a Where's Waldo. You do need photographic memory, because they took the receiving yards, and then a huge CVS list comes down with where's the over-under, but then they'll sneak rushing or receptions, but not the over-under. They'll sneak over-unders between rushes and receptions.
Yeah.
The good stuff is always the hardest to find. If something's on the front page, it's why I tell people, I say, are you a front page bettor? And then it tells me a lot about them. That really, yeah. And those ones that they show you, Justin Herbert, it's literally a red light district chick in Amsterdam. You're walking by the sportsbook, Justin Herbert boosted 2 touchdowns, and it's just saying, I really like you. I don't do this a lot. This is not, no, but for you, come on. Over 1.5 touchdowns. We've reduced the price just for you. It's 2 for 1. You're going home with an STD, meaning you're losing that bet. They're enticing you. They're trying to get you to take it, and they're never going to come through. They want you to click those, and they want you to click lines and spreads. So all I try to do is say, the dumbest guy in your town took this one. That's part of what I try to do here. When I was young, I was fortunate enough. I mean, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing being a teenager, but having an uncle just telling you and repeatedly yelling about rats. Literally, my uncle sounded like Joe Pesci talking about Spider when he was referring to a bunch of these NFL games that were going on. This was way before sportsbooks were even legal. And that brings me to this week's opportunity for you to at least stay away. Here are this week's donkey charts. Just like we showed you last week, these are some of, now it's early in the week, so, I guess maybe some of this is likely to change. Some of these lines are likely to move a little bit. So early lopsided week 2 NFL sides by the total number of bets, and I guess this is coming from BetMGM. Let's disregard the first one simply because Brock Purdy's status is a little bit in flux, or should we talk about that as if he's playing?
I don't know if he's going to play. The Shanahan is apparently giving him all week to recover and see how he does. So that's a tough one. My first thought on that was like I'm going to have to wait, but I like the Saints. But also I have to wait because if you have Purdy and Jennings out there, it's a little bit different. If you don't think they're going to play, then you bet New Orleans, and you got Mac Jones for San Francisco, who, to be fair, he's not terrible. Like, he could be worse than that. I don't think the Saints are 4.5 dogs at home. So yeah, and I won't go through all of them. I won't spoil it, but I'm just looking at this now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of these I'm on the other side of this week. There is two that I'm on this side of, but I got them at different numbers, and I posted them to Tails too, Andy. Just shameless plug. They're all free over there in the Tails app. You can follow me.
I'll have the link on the bottom, and I really, you want to know why he deserves a click? Because that is just seamless, incredible transition. That's better than you see. Like, I listen to podcasts, and the slightest inflection in somebody's voice, remember, I was in acting classes. I know what acting sounds like. I can tell right away when someone's curving away from authenticity, just in the slightest differentiation in the way they're talking. That one was, my God, that's an Academy Award level transition where you even got me. So, I mean, I'm even going to go check it, even though I already check it out. I'm going to give you that extra click. Also, while we're talking about them, feel free to give us some clicks here as well. Like the video. If you enjoy these videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click notifications because, I edit these, so sometimes they come out a little earlier, sometimes they come out a little later. The only way you'll get them as soon as possible to get the earliest lines as possible is to click those notifications.
And subscribe to the Andy Francess channel.
Yeah, it brings some good sports betting karma your way as well. That's what I say. If you don't do those things, then you clearly don't. If you want to come here like one of those kids on Halloween who just takes all the candy and then just runs home, that bad sports betting karma is going to find you. So let's go to this next one because this is one that I do want to talk about. Next on the list, Bills -6.5 at the New York Jets. We're seeing the early line, maybe it will flatten out because it is a little surprising considering the Bills were down by multiple scores in the fourth quarter and the Jets overperformed and almost beat the Steelers. But 81% of people on the Bills division matchup -6.5 at the Jets. I mean, I told you guys about how I like taking the Chargers in a division matchup, getting 3 points rather than taking a favorite in division early in the season. So the Bills riding high after an emotional win that everybody saw. Now you're going to play the Jets in New Jersey. You think I want to click the Jets +6.5, but at least I would tell you plant the Minesweeper flag. Well, then hop in there with Dave. At least you're on at least you're not with him. That's all I'll say.
81%'s a lot, huh? By the way,
I think it's less. I think it's less.
I love the donkey on there as well. Good stuff. I'm trying to see if I bet it at 6.5 or did I get it at 7. Just give me one. I'm looking now because, to me, this is a Jets team that, let's give Justin Fields a little credit here too, right? I got him at +7 -115. So I paid a little bit extra, but still I'll pay the extra 5 cents to get that 7 in there. Okay, look, the thing, we talk situational stuff. They're coming off, I think you just mentioned it, like they're flying high off a heart pounding walk off victory where they had no business winning that game at all. I love Josh Allen. They're a good football team. McDermott's a good coach, but they still didn't, they had no business winning that game. And blame it on Baltimore and credit the Bills for, taking advantage of their miscues, no doubt. But the Jets, over the last 3 years at home against the Bills, win, lost by a field goal. The one win was the Aaron Rodgers game where he on 9/11, where he ruptured his Achilles, and they came back and won. Some of you guys may remember this. Xavier Gibson on the kickoff in overtime ran it back. Great game. They play him tight here. They're coming off a tough loss in a game that I think they should have won against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. So to me, it just sets up as one of these spots. And again, you mentioned a lot of the points I'm making. Home divisional dog coming off a rough loss. You don't want to go to 0-2, especially in a divisional spot. Bills coming off a win where they're flying high. It reminds me last year of the Eagles when they faced the Ravens in Baltimore. They came in, they beat the shit out of them. And then the next week, they were like 10.5, 11-point favorites against the Panthers. And again, everyone's going, oh my dude, Eagles are going to win by 500. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like this is the typical letdown spot. And if it wasn't for Xavier Legette dropping a pass that would have been a touchdown, the Panthers may have won that game straight up. So whether the Jets cover or not, I just think the right play is to take a team that's a 6.5 or 7-point dog at home in a divisional spot.
Well, then let's focus on something that caught your attention and caught my attention, and that was a line that we saw drop for this game, and I saw you tweet about it earlier as I was pulling potential picks to push your way, and I guess we were on the same page here. Breece Hall, who people not left for dead, but people acted like he was some second-class citizen in the Jets offense when he was clearly the second most dynamic player in the Jets offense, and we saw him have over 100 yards on the ground against what was supposed to be a good Steelers defense. And I love how wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, it's like, look, we're not going to ask you to do a ton. We have a top 5 defense. Just you mind managing the game a little bit. You don't have to be a hero. Comes to the Jets. They have best defense year after year. They can't stop a damn thing. So now he goes to this. Come on, this is the Steelers. They always have a good defense under Tomlin. Give up 30 points against a Jets team who never scores 30 points. So it's just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why wherever Rodgers goes, the D decides they don't have to play anymore. But anyway, Breece Hall, over 100 yards on the ground against that Pittsburgh team. And my thought is that you saw what Derrick Henry did to the Buffalo run defense, and you thought, my God, one crease for Breece Hall, and he's going to easily pop this and clear this over by a lot.
Yeah, and again, you don't want to overreact to things. And I'd almost, even if you said I was overreacting, I'd say maybe I am. But I mean, Derrick Henry had 5 runs of 10-plus yards. He had 1 for 30, 1 for 46, and 1 for 49. That Buffalo run defense had holes last year. You and I talked about it often on this show. And Breece Hall came out there and was very good. He looked explosive again. He looked, elusive. He was fast. He hit the holes. That's what you want to see. And I kind of bought in to this notion in the summer, like, oh man, maybe Braylon Allen, all the hype towards him in the offseason, and training camp. Maybe Braylon Allen is going to get some additional work. Well, guess what? That was not the case. Isaiah Davis, Braylon Allen, those guys were total afterthoughts. Breece Hall looked good. So now you've got him going into this matchup. And if you wanted to say, give me the rushing plus receiving at 78.5 instead, that's fine. But I don't know. It just feels like there should be some opportunities there for him to run. And maybe I like this more than most because I think this game actually stays close. If you think it's going to be a blowout and you're going to have a lot of people who do, then they're not going to like Breece Hall. But this is correlated to the way I see the game playing out.
So you're suggesting that they think Buffalo's going to kill them, right? Like -6.5 spread.
So
it's Buffalo.
Yeah. Right.
Well, then there is another potential option because another person in that quote unquote like top tier who was somewhat left for dead is the wide receiver, the only true pass catcher on the Jets, Garrett Wilson. And if you saw what Zay Flowers did against Buffalo and the Buffalo injuries in the secondary, then there are a couple different opportunities. Now, I highlighted a guy on the Bills as well, just because I've kind of secretly felt these last couple of years that their best weapon to move the ball kind of consistently and a guy who's should be most trustworthy and for a tight end has some more of those dynamic qualities like the tight ends who can move down the field around the league. Dalton Kincaid, he looked pretty healthy in week one. I think he cleared 40 yards or something like that. We're seeing him again at 30.5 receiving yards against these Jets. It looked like Sauce Gardner did a pretty good job last week. I mean, he had an awful year last year, but now Rodgers is gone, so I imagine he'll be back to playing relatively well, and other players like that now that Rodgers is out of there. But I think Kincaid could be a good option to move the ball against this Jets team, but this was more about Garrett Wilson, who Justin Fields found him. I mean, the worries about Fields not being able to find someone despite giving DJ Moore essentially one of his biggest 2 seasons in the NFL. Garrett Wilson, 56.5. You saw what Zay Flowers did. You think that could be an option for some people?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, when we did our futures show, Garrett Wilson season-long props were actually one of the ones I handed out because I think Garrett Wilson's one of the best players in football, and he's never really had an opportunity to prove it. Justin Fields looked better last week than I've seen him look maybe ever. And that could be the overreaction. The part that isn't an overreaction is that Justin Fields throughout his career has actually been able to buoy his number one receivers like DJ Moore, Metcalf last season. I'm sorry, George Pickens last season before Russell Wilson took over. Fields and Pickens had some great games together. And I think you can see that with Garrett Wilson. When you look at what we saw in this first week against what should have been, as you mentioned, the good Steelers defense, target share wise, and this is what I care about, right? We should all care about the target share among these players because it's going to help if they're getting a ton of looks. Let me pull it up. Garrett Wilson had I think it was like 35%. No, Garrett Wilson had a 43% target share, Andy. Only JSN at 59% and Zay Flowers at 47% had a higher target share than Garrett Wilson on the day. Sure, it was only 9 targets, so you have to be able to say, all right, well, target share is going to go down as volume of passes goes up. A low volume passer, you can have a higher target share with less actual targets, but also that's a monster number. And I think there's no, who else do you have? You have a rookie in Mason Taylor.
Nobody. Breece Hall. That's it.
Yeah. By the way, I'm a big Kincaid guy. I really liked Kincaid coming into the season, and I'm hoping that we see more of him. We saw that early score from him in week 1 against Baltimore. Where do you think somebody like Keon Coleman 11 targets last game? I actually think that he's the real deal, but also I don't think it's going to be the Keon Coleman game every single week.
I'd like to welcome myself back in ultra high definition. Hopefully this remains for the rest of the show. But what I think about Keon Coleman is he was one of those guys like Marvin Harrison was another one of my year 1 guys who I thought would take a step year 2. Adunze was another candidate, and Keon Coleman was another candidate. Now people will probably point to last week and say, oh, well, the year 2 takeoff is on. When I was watching that game, I wasn't overly impressed with what I was seeing. And if the Bills weren't down by a considerable amount, he's not getting that entire fourth quarter of work. Now, the argument can be made in that quarter, in and of itself, he earned a lot of Josh Allen's trust, and you will see him start going to him more in bigger moments.
That's a good point.
But he hardly got any looks before that. What did he have? 2 targets? Maybe he had 2 catches up until the fourth quarter. And it looked like the Bills offense that we were used to seeing. We saw Shakir have some catches. As I mentioned before, we saw Kincaid have some catches. Palmer had like 1 or 2. Cook had some out of the backfield. And it was just this, everybody gets a little taste, kind of like the Green Bay Packers in a weird way. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And apparently Coleman had awful separation if you're into those metrics. I don't know. It's great to see 100 yards, and I think that will inspire Allen to look his way more, but I don't feel as good as I do about a guy who had fewer yards, but I was all about the comeback year or not comeback because he had a good year, but the start that I was looking for Marvin Harrison, who was getting the looks, almost even had a 100-yard touchdown on top of what he already had. But Murray missed him on a throw, but he had like 70-something and a touchdown. His fewer yards to me were more impressive than Coleman just racking it up in panic mode in the fourth quarter. What are your thoughts on him?
I think he's going to be a lot more involved than he was last year, for sure. But I think you're going to see the ball spread around. Like, you still have Khalil Shakir. Palmer's a non-factor. You have Kincaid. You have Keon Coleman. Dawson Knox is going to see like a couple targets per game. No, I do think he's going to be a lot more involved this year, for sure. But no, I don't expect him to have, the 24% target share that he had this week. And again, that was because of big volume for Josh Allen. But I like the trajectory of Keon Coleman, for sure. And I think we'll have opportunities. But that's just a tough team to bet on week over week because Allen's just going to throw it to the guy who can get yards. He doesn't really play favorites because he no longer has a Stephon Diggs.
So I guess it's only natural since I just brought him up and it's next on the list. I'm going to come right back to that Cowboys, but the Arizona Cardinals, all the Dans out there, they got through by the skin of their teeth. -6.5 spread. Like you said, the game could have went kind of either way. Rattler was driving at the end in an attempt to tie it up. Almost happened, didn't happen. Cardinals ended up winning and covering. You know how Dan works. You feed me once, and I'm going to come right back to that well and feed me again, and that's what we got here. We have the Cardinals -6.5 once again, dishing out the same spread that they covered last week, and they're at home against Carolina, who, as I thought about Bryce Young, as I said over the summer in that Futures episode, it's the house money theory. You play those last weeks when nothing's on the line. There's no pressure. You're an awful team. You already got benched and came back in. It's easy to wheel and deal and feel free. But now that the record is 0-0 and you're theoretically back in the race in that NFC South weak division, now all of a sudden we're back to year one and early year two Bryce Young. However, with that said, it looks like the Dans have believed that too. They're on the Cardinals here. You think this one could be a rat in the making?
Yeah. I have not bet it, and I don't know if I will. But
that's totally fine. The only reason I wanted to bring that up was because if you give me 50s on Marvin Harrison, I took it. And you do that again, I'm taking it again. Mid-50s, Marvin Harrison against the Carolina Panthers. Trey McBride got 1 million looks. And by the way, how's that Trey McBride versus George Kittle season long?
Don't jinx it. McBride's going to end up getting hurt this week.
I said, how's it looking? How's it looking? But
I'm just saying. I saw your tweet and I laughed. I saw it earlier. It was good.
Part of it, just because part of what was baked in was Kittle being like whatever 32 or whatever he's turning this year.
You're absolutely right. I remember you mentioned it in our futures show. Absolutely. I just don't want McBride to
he's getting hurt. He's getting hurt. But no, that's it. He's getting hurt. So but the reason he's getting hurt is because we had that lined up. So what can we do if McBride's going to get hurt? We're going to take Marvin Harrison. He's going to be the last one on the field. But I believe he ended mid-70s last game, and I kid you not, there was an 80-yard touchdown that Murray slightly missed on, but Harrison burned the corner. There was nobody behind him, and Kyler Murray simply missed. But he still went over, still scored a touchdown at home indoors with pretty, a decent lack of target competition at the wide receiver position. I think all those, deeper routes, like the one he almost hit that long touchdown, are on the table. And, maybe it's a little bit of a trap game because maybe if they get ahead and, these Panthers games, if Bryce Young looks like the awful version, they can be these disgusting games that we saw last week that maybe only end up ramping up in the fourth quarter because Carolina has to kind of try to push to come from behind. But with that said, I still think mid-50s for Marvin Harrison, who in my head, I treat him as a tier higher because in my mind, I'm fast forwarding to the future where people are going to start to respect him. But we're in that early stage where he's still living off year one reputation, and mid-50s to me suggests that's a year one type of total, especially coming off of last week. He was, I think, low 50s last week, big week, mid-50s this week. I'm still taking him.
I don't blame you. I mean, Carolina has one corner and that's it. This is a bad defense. This might be a spot, you never know, where Marvin Harrison's just at like 75.5 every week going forward. So you're buying low early in the year. I totally get it.
And before we go down on this list, I do, of all these that you see here on the early donkey chart, I think when all is said and done, the highest percentage of bets will come in on the Cowboys. Because I did a little bit of looking around beforehand, and I know this screenshot is showing BetMGM, but I went to some of the other, and the one consistent, really high one was the Cowboys. And it makes sense. They played very well against the Eagles, and they had extra time to prepare for this game. Couldn't have looked worse than the Giants. Like, they looked real bad. They're already calling for Russell Wilson to be benched. And I feel like when they're calling for a QB to be benched, and the QB stays in, that's when he plays his absolute worst. When people are calling him, it's like the script is already written for people to go absolutely nuts for Jackson Dart to start. And the only way that happens is if Russell Wilson plays awful. And if Russell Wilson plays awful, it means that the Giants have played pretty poorly against the Cowboys. This is one where if I was forced to ride with the Dans, it would be on this one, but it's just, I do not want to hop on the same roller coaster as the unluckiest guy in my town, because then I'll be in a Final Destination movie, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm going to steer clear of this, but if I had to ride with the Dans, just these Giants seem pretty doomed after that week one performance.
All right, so we hadn't discussed this game prior to right now, but I bet the Cowboys minus 5.5, and I had to. It was less about how they played last week, because I bet the Cowboys last week too, the first half and the full game. That game, if there was ever a game that just lined up as, hey, we don't want to come and get our dicks kicked in on national television to open the season at the Link against the Super Bowl champions, right? Another spot where it's like, oh no, the Eagles, they're so good. Yeah, they are. I'm an Eagles fan. They're good. But they lost a ton of guys on defense, and the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I gotta say, as a not a scam fan, meaning I don't have. My friend came up with a new term. He goes like, "You're a free agent fan." Like, I'm open. I'm open for fandom. But it was apparent just watching. I go, this does not feel like the Eagles defense I remember. No.
But also they didn't play in the preseason at all, so it's just gonna. If you even last year early in the season. It took a little while to work the kinks out with rookies like Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. So that's what I'm saying. I don't overreact to that. But we're betting one game. Like every week is a new week. It's one game. There's new wrinkles. This to me is just Dak Prescott has punished the Cowboys at home throughout his career. He really has. Or I'm sorry, the Giants throughout his career. And, I don't know what you would call it. Would you call it a feedback loop or what? Because I agree with you that when a quarterback has his head on the chopping block, it's rare that they're like, all right, I'm going to go out and show them why I'm the starter. It's almost like they feed
it's
in.
It's Murphy's Law meets Occam's razor.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Yeah, it's what can go wrong, will go wrong, meets the most likely outcome, which is Russell Wilson continuing to be awful.
Yeah, and
I'm
also
such an idiot. I just invented something that makes just a hair of sense, and I emphatically stated it like, you should know this. Like, if Dave wasn't so kind, he should be like, you're ludicrous. Shut that up, come up with a new theory, and then bring it back to me.
Is that how I would have described it? No, but I get it. I understand what you're saying, and it makes sense. And really, I was affirming your original point that when do you ever see a guy that just comes out after he gets his head called for and you're just like, whoa, we were wrong. This guy needs to stay in.
Well, great start by Derek Carr down there in New Orleans. Like, he deserves that job. Yeah,
Yep.
it's the Derek Carr where it never ends up getting any better. And then all of a sudden you're 6 years and you still have Daniel Jones on your team
Yep.
like these Giants do. So maybe the Giants learned a lesson about playing a quarterback just a tad too long.
Oh, can I say something? Let me say real quick on this. Because I had a daily fantasy show, DFS show with Greg this morning, and we actually have a bet. I think I have a good side of this bet. Over under 8.5 games before Jackson Dart gets a start. And I'm on under 8.5 games. He's on over. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson Dart starts the second half of this game at this point. So I'd be really upset if I lost this bet. But dude, when you see how well he played, in the preseason, and this is not some, to steal a word from you, this is not some dinky organization with a small fan base that, isn't, like, this is a big market team. They've been bad, but it's still a huge market team, right?
Yeah.
It's not the Jacksonville Jaguars where you can kind of drift off into oblivion, slip through the void, and it's like, oh, they're still playing Blaine Gabbert and no one really cares. No,
Yeah.
this fan base is going to be, they're clamoring for something, any sign of life. And that sign of life is very clearly Jackson Dart.
Especially when you see, if you see JJ McCarthy every week, like, do you see that game on Monday where, it started really poorly and then it ended up well? In your mind, it's like, we should get Dart out there. So I'll take your side of that bet. I will mention the same way that you took the Cardinals and they won, so you're taking them again, -6.5. Don't bet against the Titans. Lose, complain, say it's rigged. Dave wins on the opening line. And then what do? You bet on the Rams on the road in Tennessee's home opener. 5.5 points. You want to know what's going to happen? Rams are going to win by 3 at the end. There you go. You can fast forward past everything. Don't invest your money on that.
Wait, you got to click. You got to remember to click. If that's exactly what happens, because that was succinct. That's a perfect YouTube short right there. Okay. That's maybe 30 to 45 seconds, perfect short material. Remember, if that's what happens, remember to clip that because that'll be gold.
I will absolutely clip that. Only if it happens. And then if it doesn't, remember, it was never said, it was never on this show.
1984, dude, straight into the memory hole. That's the way I do it. And I tell people too. I just see it.
So this last one here, 74% on the Steelers, who everybody lost money on when they took the Steelers against Seattle here. So wouldn't be angry at you if you took the Steelers here. You would imagine at home, their defense, I don't know, doesn't get embarrassed for a second straight week because as we did learn last week, and we don't want to overreact, but I'm not overreacting because I already wrote him off. 30s white guy, wide receiver. He was cooked for me. Dave needed to learn. I'm pretty sure Dave now knows Cooper Kupp is cooked.
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
All I'm trying to say is Jackson Smith-Njigba looked awesome. They have very few pass catchers outside of him. I know you're not a huge fan of Sam Darnold. So you have a Pittsburgh defense who played poorly. They're probably hearing about it. They're going to be at home in their home opener against Sam Darnold. It's a team from the West traveling east. So a rarity around here. You don't really see me bring these up a ton. I think that Sam Darnold interception coming in at plus money in Pittsburgh against a defense who you can typically rely on. Typically, I understand after last week, but this is a lot different than playing Justin Fields, who has that jackal quality where, he can go wild on you if he starts running around. Week 1, probably tough to play a quarterback like that, but a quarterback like Darnold, when things don't work well for him, it gets really bad. And I will say, I said, keep a crooked eye on how often the Seattle Seahawks run the ball, just refuse to. They did it. Kubiak did. He refused to stop running it. But Sam Darnold here on the road against Pittsburgh, I'm gonna bet that he throws a pick, something that this used to be deep in the minus. I mean, if this was 2 years ago at Pittsburgh and he was playing with Carolina, or I guess that's 3 years ago now, what would this be? Minus 175. So I'm going to go with the Sam Darnold pick against Pittsburgh.
Man, he's got a round face, huh?
Like the Charlie Brown perfect circle. My younger brother had that when he was younger. I never noticed that about Darnold.
You can barely see his ears.
Maybe you guys did him dirty over at Odd Shopper.
That is possible. That's probably not the greatest looking picture. Yeah, it's just his head, like just a big head.
Or like over on the fantasy on Sleeper, when you saw what they did with the Travis Kelce picture,
No,
where they put like the engagement ring on him.
Oh God.
His actual profile picture, and I'll try to include the overlay, unless they switched it back, is him holding up his hand like it's this with a ring on it.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's awful.
On the actual fantasy app. So
I'm looking at pictures of Darnold now. He looks much slimmer in the face.
So it's you guys who did it.
But it's because he's got facial hair now. Some people being fully shaven, it's not for everybody. Like you can pull it off, not me, dude. If I fully shave my face, I look like a ghoul. So I decided against that a long time ago. But
yeah, the problem is if I grow my facial hair, it's way closer to a crustache than a mustache. So it's the growtee, as I like to call it. Right. It's more of a growtee and a crustache than legitimate facial hair. So I don't mind.
Sam Darnold plus money on that. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think I'm not going to have that, but I can see where you'd go there. I think the biggest donkey bet of the week might actually be Steelers -3. People are going to be really down on Seattle right now, really down on Seattle. Sam Darnold was not great in that opener, but mind you, again, it's a divisional spot. Like they were a divisional dog, and they had I don't know if you saw any of that game. They had every opportunity to win that game. Like this line.
It's on their coach. It's on their coach. That game was there to win, but their coaching staff, to me, seems very old school, like stubborn with their run and will punt on any sort of questionable situations that would be normal to go for it on.
You can't do it. There were a lot of really questionable coaching decisions. Brian Callahan in Tennessee, which, by the way, I'm with you on Tennessee this week. Mike McDonald in Seattle. Ben Johnson, I don't think he's getting enough blame. Apparently, he did tell him to kick it out of the end zone late in that game, and he didn't do it. But what about, I don't know, did you watch any of the Monday Night Football game?
Yeah.
That was one of the worst challenges you'll ever see in your life. If you have that timeout, you know what happens? You now have you have 45 seconds to a minute left. Instead, you have 9 seconds left because you challenged the play that had zero chance of winning. I mean, everybody knew that. You could be a very, very basic, casual football fan and go, why? I wouldn't challenge that. So I don't get it.
By the way, is it just me, or does the replay assist seem completely arbitrary? Like sometimes, like a coach will come sprinting like, wait, should I throw it? And then they just go, oh no, it's incomplete replay assist. But then other times they'll let a team run up to the line of scrimmage, rush a play, and then it seems very, very, very random. Like it's me and you in an office, and if one of us had to go to the bathroom, there's going to be no replay assist. It seems very sporadic. Like they don't have to define when they use it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It is, I guess it is arbitrary use. It's just when we feel like it. I don't know. It's weird. But don't you feel like this Seattle game, doesn't it feel like 3 points is a little fishy? To me, like that screams.
It's the whole point of the donkey
Seattle.
charts, Dave. It couldn't be more suspicious.
Screams take Seattle to me.
Yeah. But that's what we're trying to get that muscle operating in people, where we're not forcing you to take the other side, but we understand what you're thinking right now. That Pittsburgh, Rodgers, 4 touchdowns. Now they're home against Darnold. Yeah, West team traveling east. Darnold lost his last 2. We understand. We're telling you to take your talents elsewhere. Like, I mean, I'm not telling you to bet interceptions again, but I just didn't want to bring it up because of how god awful they looked. And that was the Miami Dolphins, who, I mean, it's just the craziest part is that this was the best offense essentially 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
to see them not even be able to get a first down is really something.
What was it? What was it? 2, 3 years ago, they dropped like 60 points on Denver.
Yeah, it was like week 1 or week 2.
Yeah, might have been because I think it was actually Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, everyone getting in. I mean,
Everyone.
that was when you knew that Nathaniel Hackett wasn't long for this league. And Mike McDaniel, I've said this before, and a lot of people know my thoughts on him. So for those of you who watch other content of mine, I apologize for repeating myself. But the gimmick of like talking to the media in riddles and stuff, and word salad, and saying things that aren't actually, you're formulating sentences that don't mean anything, and it's like this kind of smug, pretentious attitude that you take with people, and just kind of assume like, I'll feed them whatever shit I want to feed them and they'll eat it. That type of stuff, that works when you're winning football games. Fans and teams and players grow tired of that quickly when you stop winning. He is the prototypical type of coach that could quickly lose a locker room. And I don't know if that's what's happening, right? There's a lot of people out there, players too. Jameis Winston, the eccentricities, they're all fun and games when he's winning. You stop winning, it's like, all right, dude, enough of it. Just go play football. We don't need another soundbite. So those type of players can be awesome, and those type of coaches can be great. And until they aren't, I will say this though. I want to bet the Dolphins this week, but I want to bet like alts, okay? I don't want to bet any standard stuff on them because there's a real possibility they're just I see you have the interception, so we're going to be on the opposite side. There's a real possibility.
No, we're not. I needed something to transition to be like you're just saying when things are good, and I'm gonna hold. Yeah, we got those alts coming. We know we're gonna do those alts. I'm not opposed to it because I don't know which way this goes, but things are when things are good, you can say whatever you want. Same things applies. But when things aren't good, you gotta fess up to it, and we may have to do it right here because
it was so bad, man. It was so bad.
On one hand, I emphatically said he's getting all the work on the ground. He did. He got almost all the work on the ground. Were they just god awful on the ground or just god awful overall? They couldn't run on the Raiders?
Andy, I kept checking the box score because I know we talked about this and we both felt good.
Sick.
And Stevenson was stuck on 15 rushing yards for what felt like the entire game. And that's where he ended.
And there's a glimmer for you because I was dead wrong. Well, dead wrong on the total number of yards for Stevenson. He did get more work on the ground than Travion Henderson. But Demario Douglas had -2 yards. At least your star from last year had 100 yards. At least your Patriot of the bunch was the standout player. Yeah. And with that said, look how low these totals are against the awful Miami Dolphins. And now I will let you talk about the alt overs. Just something to think about. Either Dave's going to be right. We're going to see some alt overs. I'm assuming he's going to talk about Waddle, Achane, and Tyreek Hill, or Patriots get their act together under Vrabel and run the ball effectively against a defense that's quit on their team. One of these two things is happening. But go ahead, sell those alts quickly.
All right. Well, I'll tell you something hilarious because it was Ashton. So I bet I even told you this. I texted you on Sunday morning or Saturday night or something, or Friday. I was like, yo, I'm going to bet Ramondre Stevenson most rushing yards in the game. Okay. At plus 380. And I did that. And the crazy thing was there was an actual path because A.Jeanty was on the other side. That's why the number was so inflated. There was an actual path where Stevenson didn't hit the over on his rushing yards, but finished as the highest rusher, right? Like A.Jeanty had 38 yards. Henderson, I think, had like 27. All you needed was one big rush from Stevenson, and he wouldn't even hit, but he would have won.
I know that I was hoping they were going to get that one they were hoping they were going to get that one play. And I didn't want to divert it quickly, but you just talked about him. I noticed because people were saying no unders for us this week. I saw an under that I'm willing to take this week.
My God.
And this is A.Jeanty behind an offensive line that was not creating a lot for him. A guy who didn't get a ton of work, I believe, in the passing game. I don't believe he got a ton throughout that game. I think it may have only been 2 catches, or unless I'm confused. Yeah, I think it was only 2 catches for like under or fewer than 5 yards. So I'm seeing this here, 92.5 rushing and receiving against the Chargers, who play good defense. Yeah, I will take the under 92.5 for the under crowd. That was just something that I quickly wanted to bring up as you were talking about A.Jeanty. But still, I got to let you finally get back to your alt points on the Miami players.
Sure. And only thing to watch on that is I'm not convinced Brock Bowers is going to play this week. So if he doesn't play,
true,
might boost the passing work a little bit for A.Jeanty, but that's a big number. It's a big number. All right, so just my quick thoughts on the Miami thing is it's possible that they're just dead. I won't rehash everything. It's possible that like Mike McDaniel is literally fired after this week. I think there's a non-zero chance that happens. But on the other hand, what if the Indianapolis Colts, here's just a callback to the opening of the show. What if the Indianapolis Colts defense is just nasty, right? Like what if they're really good? What if they're just a good football team and Miami's not good, but they're not nearly as bad as we saw last week? And now they go in at home where we know that if it's a hot, sunny day, that stadium is designed, coincidentally, I'm sure, to where the sun just beats down on the opponents all game long on their bench while the Miami Dolphins are in the shade. They actually, if you want to talk home field advantage, there is a real home field advantage here from a condition standpoint. So instead of me being like, just give me Miami at -1.5 or give me this, why wouldn't I just look to bet some alts on already deflated numbers? Because the alts are going to be deflated too, the numbers, and the odds are going to be higher.
Dave, that's the moral of this show. That's what we did all last season was,
right.
Who struggled? Now let's take the alts on them and get these crazy numbers. Things
you
that
killed
are
with
like
those last year. You killed them.
That's really what I think people look for the most from me. And I'll just be honest, these first 2, I'm not seeing a ton of opportunities. Like I did the 70 yards with Harris. It's got to feel right. And I promise you, when certain ones feel right, I'll just lay them right out there. Like Garrett Wilson, he's got a chance at 75 this week. But as soon as his normal total is at 66, no, I can't take him for the 80, 90. I'm looking for people who got dropped to the 50s like Zay Flowers, who then can easily hit 75, 80. But keep going.
No, that's it. I mean, real credit.
Or is it Hill, Waddle? Like
Waddle's
who are you?
44, and we don't have alts yet, so we'll have to just toss the idea out there, and if people want to latch onto it. But what you just said, I thought is pretty cool too, because you don't have to just latch onto it with the Dolphins. There's opportunities, like take opportunities with specific games or scenarios where you could see the bounce back, and it doesn't like if you hate the Dolphins here, yeah, fine. You hate the Dolphins, take some alts on rushing props for the Patriots. Look on the other, if you really hate the Dolphins, as bad as we saw the Patriots were yesterday or last week under Mike Vrabel and Drake May, and none of them looked particularly good. They couldn't get the run game going for shit, even though they paid a bunch to these offensive linemen. Maybe there's an argument there. There's always ways, if you're going to bet alts, to do what Andy said and try to find spots where everything is deflated and the odds are much longer on a number that if they have one good game, it'll look nothing like that the following week.
As Dave was just saying that, I didn't even have one prepared. I just cooked up a little pirate parlay for you guys before we end the show here. We're going with, because I know I know this one we'll call yours. We're going to go, man, I feel like it's either he's going under or he's hitting 80. Give me 80 rushing yards for Breece Hall. I was going to say 70. But I know you guys, you're greedy. You want even more than that. So I'll go 80 rushing yards for Breece Hall. All right, since we got greedy there, I'm only going to go 70 receiving yards. Nah, let's go 80. Let's just call it the 80s parlay. 80 receiving yards for Marvin Harrison. the one that I just mentioned that has that opportunity, 80 receiving yards for Garrett Wilson. So yeah, now we need the Jets to play well, but they have two skilled players. So we need both of those guys to come through. And if there was, let's put one of the Dolphins. Who do you, if you had to pick between Waddle and Tyreek?
Christian Gonzalez, it's looking like he's not going to play this week. If you're missing Christian Gonzalez and you're the Patriots, Tyreek Hill, man, look, he had 4 for 40 on 6. Give me Hill for a hundo. No, we can go 80. Okay,
yeah. No, all right, you ready? You got $100 or $10. Do 8 on the first 3 players I said. Do 8 of those with Tyreek Hill 80 yards. It's the full 8 parlay. Then the last $2, switch that Tyreek Hill to 100 yards, and that will be our pirate parlay for you here. Week 2, Dave and Dan, that will do it for us here. This one felt a little bit smoother other than my camera, but hey, you got to see what I look like in many different lenses. So hopefully the SD was just as quality as the HD, or it was equally as disgusting. We'll be back next week for week 3. Dave, thank you so much for coming on. Remind everybody about your videos and exactly where to find you, and I will have that link down below.
Yeah, appreciate it. Andy's kind enough to throw it down there. I'm posting all my picks for free this year. There's a lot of other, sharp dudes that are over there posting their picks as well. Many of them for free over on Tails. So check it out. We're building something. We'd love to have you guys over there. Come sweat some games with us. You can follow me on Twitter, Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D, and all my videos over on the Odd Shopper channel. But remember, hit the thumbs up on this one, right? Hit that thumbs up, like it. Bring yourself some quality karma. I use that line often too. It's a good one. And
it is because then they start feeling like they're gonna shit. I'm gonna lose if I don't. Yeah. I better not take the chance. Give you that click. Hey, that's what I'll do whatever I gotta do. I'll be a used car salesman. I'll be like Beetlejuice, who goes, I'll do anything. We got lizards, we got plenty of snakes, and we got more videos for you here. I'm gonna do a Sunday standalone video. I didn't do it last week. It all depends on when I shoot the Dave and a Dan. If it's too close, I want to give it some runway. But I will do a video before Sunday with, my more refined picks, because there only are certain lines that are available right now. Like Dave said, there are no alts available for those Miami players, so I'll be able to break them down a little bit further. So if you guys make sure you're subscribed, click the notifications, you'll know when that drops. I hope to see you there. If not, we will see you for week 3, Dave and a Dan. Looking forward to it. Take it easy.